HampshirePiano, Chickering. Time to put buttons in. Here they are. It's 15 of them. That's a lot. First of all, drill a hole. The hole's already been drilled. Then we take a little bit of chisel to take a little wood out there, and a little finish out. Then we have a sacrificial screw, this one, that we screw in first. And I think it's already been done for the camera here, but this one gets boogered up. Oh yeah, it's got to force its way in. See, it remakes the threads, glue in there. Make sure it goes down properly. It's kind of rough going down here. Clear it a little bit. Once this one is in, the original screws can be put back in without any troubles, just like this one. Make the threads, make sure we want to be forcing our finish screws in there like that. See, this goes all the way down, that's good. This screw is a little bit longer than our original ones here. We don't want to booger up the face or have trouble putting in our delicate little buttons. 150-year-old buttons here, so this should fit nicely now. There. Goes in easy without jumping off the screw and damaging the soundboard. And when you get to the bottom, can't have a false bottom. You have to have the bottom that turns the washer. See, and if you screw it tighten too tight, you split the washer. And the glue underneath makes it perfect to do that. Makes it slippery, and the wood just splits apart. So this way here, you snug them down like that. Put glue underneath it first. So how many do we do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 10 more to go. Here's another one here. Drill these out. Up to that. And then do the whole process over again. Put our sacrificial screw to thread the holes first. And then we'll continue. Here's one more look at the soundboard, and you can see it's curling up like crazy here. We've had a humid day, and look at the curve in it right now here on the end. We have to get them in the case soon because this can get wicky wacky here. It starts warping like that. Anyways, got the last shim here, and I just put it in, wipe the glue off here, and plane that flat, and then we're ready for a dry run on the case over there. We're going to glue it in, maybe tonight. Okay, before we do the dry run, everything's marked. Everything has a number. And number 1 clamp goes right there, and we go all the way around. But there's a thing we did. Instead of using paper, we used to use paper to do this for forever and ever, for 30 soundboards, 31 actually. And I started using plastic, and it is just so much better, so much easier than using paper. Because when you put the glue in, it leaks in everywhere, especially up here in these areas, and it's This piano isn't so difficult to get in between here, but you can't get your fingers in between here and the soundboard. So if you get excess glue in here, which there was from the factory, glue ran down in here and they didn't bother to fix that. Nobody sees that. Anyways, all our holes are plugged with silicone. Does a good job, and you just drill it out with a drill, it pops right out. It doesn't stick to the wood very good. All these holes here are filled so the glue doesn't fill up our screw holes. That plastic is going to be easy to pull off from underneath after. So we're going to dry clamp it before the wet run. That's funny. Again, I just taped these pieces here to show what they're going to go back, and there's the cavity for the pin block, and look at that nice walnut back there. My God, that's a big walnut board. The whole side is all walnut, the whole case. And here's the other side. Of course, we have the veneer for here, and we have the wood to replace this inside there. It looks like chestnut. We have some. Anyways, what I'm going to talk about here is the pin block, and it's over here. And what I'm going to do is now I'm going to give the camera to my assistant so he doesn't get all jittery and wacky. So here we go. I'm just going to point out some things. First of all, pick up my pointer. I got my barbecue pointer. And we saw this in a previous video. Here's the veneer that's ready to go back on our top. Like that. And I'll push this aside for now. Here is the entire top of the pin block, if you can see it from over here. The way this is made. All these pieces are just laid there. But what's nice about ungluing it in this fashion is we get to save all these parts. This all fell apart. It's been reassembled. These parts were all broken apart in another video. This is our crossbanding that we put on. That's also salvaged from old pianos. And here's our base. This is going to go undisturbed. It's going to go back onto this assembly. And I want to point something out here. These pieces of maple are now expanded. Amazing enough. This is where it belongs here. These holes line up here. And if I can get my assistant to come over here and look down at these holes. This is where the pin goes. This is where it goes. Right there. And these holes line up. When you get here, only half the hole is showing. This piece of wood is expanding. Now when we get over here, like a little bit less than half of the hole is showing. And as we continue down, all the way to the end, the hole isn't showing at all. So there's a lot of stress that builds up in here when this piece of maple expands. And when we get to the end, look how much it's overhanging. Now, if you put this on the heat and bring it up to 120 degrees for half a day, it goes right back. I've already done it with this piece of wood. It goes right back to there, the holes. I just thought I'd throw that one in. And all these pieces are ready to be made with this stuff here. This is from an old Steinway upright. And this quarter sawn is just delicious. I'm going to put that, make these pieces out of this. Alright, throw that aside for now. These all come off here. I've got a nice little taper on top. Base section has its own little section. And again, it's nice to have these pieces in your hand because if you need to make them, the dimensions are here, minus a little shrinkage. Alright, this is how this works. There's a step here. These screws come through these holes. and screws into the pin block. They're kind of far apart. When this is all glued together, the whole thing flips over and sits on here. Sits there. If the bottom moves any tiny amount, all the pressure goes against this face. And it doesn't look like they went out of their way to make this fit as good as it could have. So you have pressure spots. If one spot is touching more than the other, you'll have a space in the open and the pins will bend the wood out. It's critical, I mean, that you get this to fit perfectly here. Anyways, that goes like that. That's one step. The other step goes over it, like so. Now this is what I propose. We did this on a Bluthner once. The same thing happened. At every one of them this happens. For one thing, I don't understand why they didn't put more screws here on this line. As you can see, this is really thick. This is really strong. And this L in here, the L-shaped flange, makes it really good and strong. Strong enough that we're going to drill a hole in here and we're going to tap it, and we're going to put a machine screw from here through the pin block into this flange. Now these, the original ones, these were wood screws, and what happens with all the pressure, you can actually see where the pin block is, this piece of wood is distorted. It actually goes in between the screws like this. So this moved a little bit, and when it did, it ripped this right off this joint here, loosened the whole thing. Now this is what we propose to do. I got a piece of paper on here. Drawn up. That's supposed to go right in there like that. It's not screwed in, it's not in the right place. Anyways, what the heck's going on here? Pull this out. Oh, that's why. That goes there. That goes there. Kind of sloppy. Alright, this represents a steel plate. Doesn't have to go all this wide. And these are the original fasteners that came through from the other side into the wood. They were just wood screws, and they're not very big. They're only about this long. Surprising. So these are going to be added, one in between each one. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fasteners. And what we're going to do, if this is 1/8 inch steel, we're going to turn these into machine screws. The original ones will be now machine screws, go right through the pin block and thread it into the steel plate. So these screws support this steel plate, which supports the pin block tight against the frame. This cannot rotate this way anymore. That's what happens. This goes down a little bit, and it just destroys the pin block, the tuning stability. And I believe that this happened since day one. This has been settling since it left the factory. Very slowly. Probably took 80 years or so. But anyways, who cares how long it took? That's what we're going to do. Also over here, they didn't have any screws or fasteners which holds the pin block from here to here. Nothing in a critical area. Right here. This goes here like that. This goes like this. And if you look on the other side, see? No screws in here. It's too close. they really couldn't put one in here. And these tiny little screws, well, they didn't do the job. So what we're going to do is extend the steel plate beyond the pin block, because we have steel here, we have cast iron here, we can tap into it. So this is going to be where our steel plate runs, where this green is, and that's where the pin block ran before. So this is going to not interfere with anything, and these are going to be machine screws right straight through this steel plate. This is an original. This is a screw from the other side, so this is going to be our add-on, an add-on, add-on, add-on. 3 of them coming right through the steel plate and threaded into this cast. The only bummer is we're going to have to take this down a little bit. This is going to have to be milled down the thickness of our steel plate, which is 1/8 of an inch, up to this. This here has to fit in there. Unfortunately, that's the only place that has to have that happen. Everything else will be flush, and you will never know that it was there looking inside the piano into the key bed. Okay, so there we have it. That's what I propose. We just weighed the soundboard. It weighs 18.5 pounds with the bridges on and everything, and the finish too. And at what percent humidity? Oh, we have this here. Got it plugged in there, so it's exactly 8% right now. I don't know. I imagine if it was way up around 14%, it might change the weight a little bit, probably noticeably, but that's what it is now. And it's pretty humid in here, 8%. So there we have it, just before we glue it in. Oh, Chickering, here we go. 33B. Take these out of the way. Beautiful. Takes a lot of glue.
Keep plenty glue. Wrong corner. You get over here.
Oh yes. There, just like that. Okay. Got it there? Mm-hmm. I get number one to wrestle it down. Let's see, this goes here. How convenient. Number one goes here. Ten. Hold that with your hand. Thank you.
Critical.
There. Make sure those are in place. Yep, just like that. 9 towards, yeah, the V goes right there.
How's it look?
Okay, I guess. Mm-hmm. You have another
I'm not
corner.
liking these clamps as much as you do. But
Yeah, they're great. Yeah, the number 8 goes there in the corner. Oops. Point the piece. There you go. Here, that's it.
not getting it personally.
Just like that. What's this do? Okay, baby. Easy as pie. things against the wall.
Fine. You're gonna have to come around and check everything. I'm just snugging it down so that it doesn't slip on the case. Beautiful.
Perfect. Perfect. Very nice.
I can hear a live board.
Very good.
Unprotected keypad here.
That's it. How long did it take?